Hi, this is Martin, and welcome to the first video in which I'm looking at OpenInsight 10 for my YouTube channel. In this first video, we're going to be looking at the application conversion process. So that is basically taking an existing OpenInsight based system and converting it across to run under OpenInsight 10. It's more than just a case of downloading the upgrade from revelation.com and applying that upgrade to your existing copy of OpenInsight. There's a lot of work that needs to be done, and therefore we need to go through this conversion process. The good news is there are some great conversion tools within OpenInsight 10 that make that process very quick and very easy, and that is the purpose of this video. The second of the two videos is, I hope, going to be taking a look at the examples application that we're going to convert over and work that I've done on that to enhance the user interface to make it look a little bit more pretty using some of the tools that are now available in OpenInsight 10. So when you first download OpenInsight and you look at the file, you'll find there is the installation file and currently 4 documents. I'd like to just bring your attention initially to the OpenInsight 10 Converter Quick Start Guide. This is a document that details this process with a lot of detail. It goes into a lot of information. And my recommendation would be to have that document available to you either on the screen or printed whilst you go through converting your own applications. To keep this video relatively short, I'm going to be looking at that process in a nutshell. I'm not going to go into any detail at all. We're not going to look at the screens in any great detail or anything. I'll leave the document to do that because it does it very well. So this video, we're going to look at the steps in a nutshell. What's involved? First of all, we're going to prepare our old OpenInsight application, which is basically a case of running a scan rep, just doing some basic housekeeping. Once we've done that, we are going to create an empty OI10 application. That's the one that we're going to convert our old application into. We'll then run the conversion utility and let it do its thing. And then we'll review the results, attach our data, 1 or 2 little changes in the application, and then fingers crossed we'll launch and test that application. So let's get into OpenInsight and start that process. So first of all, we're going to launch OpenInsight 9.4 and we're going to open the examples application, and under OpenInsight executables and form executables we are going to be looking for a file called scanrep. So I'm just going to scroll down here at the moment until I find scanrep. We'll shift and double click to launch scanrep. And the first thing we're asked for is, do we have a recent backup? It's always important to make sure that you have a good verified backup before you do this sort of thing, just in case anything goes wrong. You've got a point in time that you can go back to. I do have a backup, so I'll check the box and click next. And then we're asked to decide on the scanning types and classes. I'm just going to select the create known repository types and classes as per the quick start guide. We'll then click next, and then we are prompted for a number of options. Now the checked options here are checked by default, and looking at the documentation, the only other one that needs to be checked is the bottom one, and I'm doing this as per the documentation. So I'm going to check use strict validation criteria for entity IDs, and we'll click next. OpenInsight will now go away and scan the repository and produce a report of any issues that it finds. Now it's going through examples and sysprog and any other applications that are in my OpenInsight environment, and in my case I've got some demo applications and quite a large contact manager that I use at Revelation. So this is going to take a little bit longer than it would if you just had examples in there, but we're about halfway through and I'm just going to leave this to run whilst I'm talking. I should point out that I've run through the examples conversion previously, and I've also converted over our contact management system that I use daily at RevSoft UK, and that's quite a big system. It converted over very successfully, and I was using it literally within an hour or so. But I did then go on and do some work on the interface. I spent probably a week or two of evenings just jazzing it up and using some of the newest features and ripping out hundreds, if not thousands, of lines of code, which is one of the benefits of 10, the amount of code that you can lose when you do this process. That's probably a topic for another day. So, this is the results of our scan repository. Now, the first thing we do is we'll click on App ID to put our applications in order. Remember, we're only interested in the the examples application. So in here I've got an AREF32 example application, not interested in it. Below that I've got other applications and sysprog. Again, I'm not really interested in any of those. What we need to do is to look at the reason column over here on the right hand side, and we're looking for anything that is orphaned. Now if it's orphan question mark like this one, that's absolutely fine, we can leave it alone. If it's no body, we can leave it alone. If it's strict test, we can leave it alone. The only things we're interested in is just plain straight orphan. Now I've actually been through this system before, so of course I haven't got any because I've removed them, but if I just click on reason and I come down to orphan, you'll see here sysprog that there are a number. Now I don't like playing around with sysprog, so I've left them in here. But all you do is you select all the entities that you want to remove, you click next, and then you go through and remove them. I'm not going to do that because obviously I don't want to mess up my sysprog, but that's basically the scan rep. Once you've done that, you're pretty much ready for the conversion. Okay, so now we'll go ahead and launch OpenInsight, and we're going to launch the sysprog application. This will be the first time after we've run the install. And the password is sysprog, and you can check you've put it in correctly by removing the mask by clicking and holding this button. So we're good, so we'll click OK, and now we'll go away and launch the sysprog application for the first time. Once we're in here with File, New Application, brings us into the New Application dialog, so we'll put Examples, and we'll use examples underscore 27, and you'll notice that I'm doing an uppercase and lowercase with an underscore and numbers to meet the requirements of the new user policy arrangement in OpenInsight 10. It's far more tight than it has been before. So examples application, and I'll set myself up as a user. Now if these usernames and passwords don't match, it will shout at me. So I'll see how good my typing is whilst I'm trying to talk. Not very good by the looks of things. Good. Okay, so we are creating our application. OpenInsight closes down and it opens again in the examples application that we have just created, and this is going to be the application that we are going to copy our system into. We do that by going to TCL and typing exec RTI migrate version 9 to version 10, just as it is there, fully documented in the quick start guide. We'll click execute, and that will then launch this window, the migrate OpenInsight application window, which has a number of features of OI 10. So for instance, we've got this background image with translucency on this edit table. It's all very nice. But what we need to do is to click this button and locate our old backup copy of OpenInsight. We then need to tell it which data files we want to play with. So in this case, it's the examples underscore data. And there are a number of options. I'll leave you to read the documentation for these different options, but two to note are copy LH, where it will copy the data over and it will optimize the tables on the way across, or a straightforward OS copy. I'm going to go with a straightforward OS copy that's going to copy them from the original location into a new location, and I've got a specific copy of OpenInsight installed, which is examples video, and I want to make a new folder under here called examples. and we'll use that folder. So examples, video and examples, that's where the data is going to be put. We'll click next, and then OpenInsight will go away and start the conversion routine, and this window is telling us exactly what's going on. So you can see here all the tasks that have been completed. There's a task here that it's doing at the moment. We're migrating the DLL prototypes. You can see at the top how far through the process we are, including the percentage with the progress bar. It's really nice. And then you can see some output here on how things are progressing as well. So plenty of visual indicators that things are happening. And this is flying through quite quickly for me right now, which is nice. I apologise if I'm sniffing. We've got a horrible bout of flu over here in the UK at the moment, and I'm trying to keep it at bay at the moment. Right, you can see migrating C structures is red, so we've potentially got an issue there. It will have flashed up red in here, and we'll get a few more red items coming up in here in a moment. But I'm just going to leave this to run through in its own time, and we're just on migrating the promoted events at the moment. So you can see there's a deprecated event, another one, there's a few there, a few that already exist. So lots of information that is being recorded and logged for you to see exactly what's been going on, and we can look at these logs in a moment. So the fact these are going through fairly quickly doesn't matter to us. We can still see this information when this process has completed. I'm just going to leave this to run through. It's going through fairly quickly, so I'll just leave you just to watch that run through in its own time. I'll be back with you in just a moment. Okay, so a few red items going through there. So there's going to be a few things to look at some point during a test, and at the end we're done. So you can see here that we've got an issue migrating some C structures, some entity issues, and compiling forms. Now what we could do, we can look at the view log, and you can see here the log of all of the activity. I'm not going to go through here because there's just too much information to go through, but we will have a look at the view errors. So this is the view errors report that is produced. Not too many, thankfully, but you can see here that we've got an inherited entity here that can't be modified, so we might want to have a look at that. We skipped a few unknown locations. We got a few warnings for some looks like some image files from bitmaps that don't exist. So they're obviously referenced somehow, but they're not actually in there. And then there's the compilation errors for okay, these are MP underscore SQL test SQL examples MP underscore stores. Those are actually things that I've done previously and probably not deleted out of the system properly, so they're nothing to worry about. But in here, this will give you a list of things that you can look at. So when we're done, we'll close out of the conversion, and the next thing we need to do is we go to the view menu and we view tool panels database. We need to add our tables from our new location. So under examples video and my examples folder, if we click OK, we'll see all of the tables will go all, will apply. Yes, I'm not too worried about that. We'll close, update the database image, and we should pretty much be good to go. Now under settings, for application settings, I'll do an entry point. I need to try and think which one it is. I'm going to go example start. So we'll just OK that. When you do make a change at the application settings level, you have to restart OpenInsight. Oh, I'm not going to do that. What we will do is we will open a form and we'll grab the examples start form, and I just want to make sure that this is set to be visible, and it is. And there's one other that I want to check as well. Well, you can move these around. So OpenInsight forms, if you're going to use it a lot, then we'll just drag that all the way to the top, which is where I normally have it. And the other one I want to check is the examples updates, and I just want to make sure I'm on the window. I want to make sure that that is visible. It's hidden, so I'm going to make that normal, and we'll save and close. Okay, if I now do a Control L, then just drop that down there. You can see, if you knew the old examples application, this is looking exactly the way that it used to look. So produce that record, invoices, I can do a search and bring back this particular record. So it's all pretty much working the same way that it used to work before. It looks the same, there's no changes. So if you want to make it look more modern, more interesting for the users, create a much nicer user look and feel, you can do that in OpenInsight, largely by just setting the properties. Now, with regards to the user interface, I'm not going to spend ages, but here you've got all of these different controls that you can use on your forms. You can have multiple forms open. For instance, in here, if I went into the events, I could launch the quick event here. You might get some exertions, don't worry about that. So I can now see the events. I can be creating a script in here. So and I can then be bouncing backwards and forwards between the script and the actual form. And of course I've got all of the properties. Lots and lots of new properties have been exposed, and this all changes depending on the control that you are working with. And the other thing you can do is you can group controls, and then the properties will change to only show the common. So I could then change the font, for instance, to a different font style. So I'll do it something stupid, and you can see then it's changed on both of them. So yeah, there's a lot of nice things in OI 10, but hey, we'll get to those a little later. Thanks so much for your time today. I hope you found this useful, and watch out for the next video where I hope to be showing you a slightly nicer looking examples application interface. Take care. Bye bye now.